Hello again to the world of Art 110. My name is Kathleen Metcalf, and this is my P7 video blog. So, not going to be surprised if this week is a little bit shorter than previously, just because we're kind of in the middle of our virtual installation project. So this last week was Shark Tank, where we pitched our ideas to our TAs and got some feedback and some better ideas, modified ideas. Got some input from Glenn. So we kind of started out with two main ideas. One is a more traditional gallery that goes into a treehouse, which kind of fits our whole thing with our artist Kim Dwinell. Very childish sort of sense of reality. Very fun, lighthearted. And then the other was something another girl in the group came up with that was kind of like an outline of like a girl holding a surfboard, like laying on the ground, and so like different areas, like that was like the outline of the building, and then like different areas would be like a traditional gallery with her illustration work, a lot of stuff about like bugs and some like concept art and stuff like that, and then like a gallery for her movie sketches, and then kind of a large room with can't talk right now, multiple screens or like screen surfaces on the ceiling, kind of like in California Adventure, where they have the room in the Hollywood section that's like, anybody knows what I'm talking about. I grew up in Disneyland. And they have like different segments of movies and montages playing all over the ceiling in different facets of this room that's enormous, and it doesn't really have any given ceiling. It's like a ton of different angles and things all around the room. And then the other idea was to put in the outline of the surfboard part of the building, was to put her work on her novel Surfside Girls, and then have like a little like outdoor garden area, kind of more, make it more like an actual museum. And then, so those were the two ideas that we came in with, and then something that our TAs pointed out that we didn't actually know yet, this was information we didn't have, was that we have a 30 by 30 meter space to work with, which when you have a one floor gallery, that is not a lot of space. So something Glenn suggested is something I've sketched out a little bit, that'll be on my Tumblr, is basically a similar idea to the other girl in my group, except just having the surfboard be standing up and then have like fins sticking off of it, making like multi-level galleries, and have a different level for each thing. So like the top level might be animation projections, different clips. The one below might be like the work for those animations, storyboarding and keyframes, stuff like that. Then like below that have illustration work, and then Surfside Girls. So we have this really tall space because we have an infinite amount of space. Well, I guess not technically infinite, but a large amount of space vertically, as opposed to just, you know, on one plane. So we're sketching out ideas for that, and then this week I'm trying to figure out how to build it in Second Life. May cost a few lindens in terms of like getting like the video clips running in our little projector space, but it shouldn't be that much, like 30 cents, something like that. At least that's what the TAs were saying, but hope that's true. Anyway, so looking forward to that. It's not nearly as painful as I thought it might be. Anyways, moving on to the reading for this week. The idea of Luther Blissett, I think, is an interesting concept. Having, you know, multiple people's work under one name, especially when in in this context, they don't seem related at all. Not necessarily like communicating, because it says in this little article that several hundred people in Italy and across Europe used the name Luther Blissett. So obviously these people were united by an idea, not necessarily communicating with each other, or not necessarily all working on like the same wavelength, I guess. Not in communication with each other much, with the exception of like the various projects that some like the sorry, can't talk right now. Some of the projects that people organize, like some of them, the examples they gave were like parties in the street and kind of impromptu performances, things like that in public spaces. One of the things I find more interesting is how 4 of these people got together to actually write a novel. Because a novel is a lot of work, so much collaboration, which I find impressive because I don't usually do a ton of group work. I write, and I usually write by myself, and I do a lot of editing by myself, and then when I feel like it's polished, I give it to somebody to rip apart, and then I try to mend it back together the best I can and still take into account, like, editing. But 4 people working on one novel I think is pretty impressive, especially to make it as cohesive as to seem like one particular artist. I actually looked up some information on the novel Q, and it looks interesting, following in a religious radical Anabaptist through Europe in the 16th century. Sounds, at least in historical context, it sounds pretty radical. So it's, I don't know, as someone who grew up in a Christian household and kind of like dealt with the whole, not necessarily controversy, but the clash of ideas between more Protestant Reformation Christianity, as well as friends who were hardcore Catholic. When in the book it says that Q, the character, Quole, apparently, is a spy for the Roman Catholic Church who is following our main character, whose name changes throughout the story, kind of mirroring Luther Blissett, which is sometimes, apparently it's sometimes interpreted as the radical, the main character, as Luther Blissett, so it's like seen as an allegory for his life. But it seems like an interesting plot with Q following the radical through Europe, I guess trying to catch him. I was looking at reviews and things and plot summaries on Wikipedia, and is not all that thorough, but you can deal with what you can, and read some of the reviews and interpretations of it, and I actually now really want to read it. There are some, I guess, plans to turn it into a movie as of recently. There's like a proposal in 2007 that really never came about, and then apparently as of last year an Italian producer actually started having a script written for it. So I'd actually be quite excited to read it and then see how the movie comes out. I like doing that, actually comparing. But yeah, so in terms of artistic statement, I really like the idea of using a pseudonym and having multiple people put their ideas into one movement. Gives it many facets, and also makes the other people in the movement question what they're doing and why they're doing it, as opposed to just having like one group with a clear leader who, I don't know, is basically running the whole show. It's the people running the show as opposed to an individual, which I think is an interesting concept, because then it's not like with artistic expression, it's not like you can really end up with a whole mob mentality, because all these people aren't communicating all the time, but they are each having an input on an ongoing project. So I just thought it was an interesting concept, and I don't know, maybe someday it might be interesting to try spurring on something like that. Never know. Alright, thanks for listening, guys, and I will see you in class.